Hey everybody, Tom from PC Gamer here with Alan from the Heroes of the Storm team. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome.
So you guys announced a bunch of things this weekend, one of which was the next Brawl that's coming to the game, Blackheart's Revenge, and it's your first asymmetrical Brawl. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I think that's one of the cool things about the Brawl space is that we can try out a bunch of different new ideas and kind of see how they play out. And so Blackheart's Revenge is a new Brawl that we're going to be releasing in the future. And like you mentioned, really there's only one side that has a core. The other side, their goal is to push along the ship from Blackheart down this lane, down the docks there, to get to the core and actually fire off the cannons and blow up the core. While the other team is actually trying to load cannonballs into cannons and fire at the ship and destroy the ship before it gets there. And so there's a cool mechanic where you're not necessarily, when you're on the defending side, trying to push lanes and whatnot. You're trying to actually actively engage with the ship and take it down, while the other team is trying to defend. And at the same time, the map is kind of split on the top and the bottom, where you as the attacker have to decide, okay, where are we going to actually put our forces to try to stop them from loading the cannonballs into the cannons, while the opposing side does the same.
It's almost like the attackers are playing a payload style game and the defenders are playing like a tower defense.
Yeah, it is kind of a mix there. And you have different options. Your options are, okay, do we actually try to just straight up team fight and knock out the team so that then we can actually engage with the cannonballs? Do we try to sneak in, some cannon fire when they're maybe all defending down at the bottom? And so there's a lot of different variations of how you can play the game.
How much of this asymmetrical mode is just an experiment for you guys, kind of feeling it out, or are you pretty confident that this is going to be the thing you'll want to do more with?
Well, so that's the great thing about Brawl, like I mentioned, is we can try it out, we can see how it actually works, we can then from there make improvements, iterate on it, or if we decide that maybe it just isn't a mode that works out, we can leave it in the Brawl space and it'll just cycle out in the next week. So I think you're gonna see more of that in Brawl, where we're gonna try out things, see how they go, and then from there we can potentially bring them into the full game.
How much of that was a reaction to what the community's been giving you feedback on with the Brawl? Because I remember seeing a post on the subreddit of somebody complaining, basically saying, we don't want normal games in the Brawl.
Yeah, I mean, our goal with Heroes Brawl is to make varied experiences, a lot of fun, compelling, but also just wacky, crazy things that don't fit in the normal game. And so you're going to see all kinds of different experiences here. Some of them may be on our existing maps with the rules being broken, like, super fast attacks or all heroes the same. And some of them will be on entirely new battlegrounds, like Blackheart's Revenge. So I think we're going to do both sides and see how things work out, see which ones are really popular, and then potentially do more of those. And the ones that are less popular, maybe we actually do less of those.
Talking to Dustin Browder a while ago, like a year ago, he said that one of the great things about the Heroes of the Storm engine that you guys have is rapid prototyping. Is that coming in handy through these Brawls?
100%. Yeah, it's a huge advantage in Brawl, where we can have a level designer kind of take an idea and try it out in a day in some of these more simpler ones. Obviously, something like a Blackheart's Revenge took quite a bit of time to build that out, but some of the simpler ones, you can try it out in a day. We can do it in a play test. If people enjoy it, we go from there and we actually make it a real Brawl.
Cool. And the other big announcements that you guys made was that Varian and Ragnaros were coming to Heroes of the Storm. Varian pretty soon, Ragnaros following shortly after next month. Can you tell me a little bit first about Varian, because he's a storied character within Warcraft recently, especially?
Yeah, no, he's a very timely character. But the awesome thing about Varian is that he's our first true multi-class character, where he actually can take on different roles in the middle of the game based on how that game is going, what the team is doing, what talents they've selected. And so he can either be this in fact, there's really 3 different modes he can be in. One is a very tanky character, so that he can kind of peel off of other characters that are attacking your back line. He can be this damage dealer that's high damage and more like burst damage, or he can be more of like a sustained damage dealer as well. And so through various talent choices, key ones being at level 4 and at level 10, but even sprinkled throughout that, you've got other options that kind of boost or buff different areas of his skill. You can decide, what role am I going to take in this game? And so that's something that, while we've had heroes that have given you some options of a direction within a role, this is the first time that we've actually had a hero that truly you can be different roles. And we think that's going to add a really cool dynamic aspect to the game.
Now, you said first multi-class character. Is this something that we're going to maybe see more of with this variance in the middle of a game?
I think it's something, again, like we're exploring. We want to see how this works out, but I would not be surprised if this works out well that we would keep on exploring that kind of concept.
And the other hero, Ragnaros, is also pretty unique. You guys didn't announce something on the level of Cho'Gall or Lost Vikings this year, but being able to turn into, as you put it, a raid boss and just take over a lane, how did that come about?
I mean, just the villain itself, the raid boss itself, once we saw that, we're like, okay, we want to get this into heroes. We knew we had to do something epic like that. Like, we couldn't just have him be just a normal hero. He had to have some mechanic that kind of raised him to that epic level. And so we went through a bunch of different variations on how to implement him. We wanted him to have that cool feel so that players felt like, okay, I am Ragnaros. And ultimately where we ended up with, I think it was a really awesome balance between the individual hero who's in the lanes, who can still deal out a ton of damage and has this awesome epic experience, but then that molten core trait where you actually take over that fort and you become this enraged, just awesome supreme being of Ragnaros as the raid boss, and you just start raining down fire, swinging that hammer. That's when you truly feel like you're Ragnaros.
So I'm going to ask the maybe dumb question of this, but what stops the enemy team from just walking away from him?
Honestly, you can do it, and that's one of the things that you have to consider is when someone takes over that fort, do we engage him, do we try to burst him down, or do we just run? And in the games we've been playing so far, because he becomes so big and because you see all this stuff raining from up high, there is a bit of that, okay guys, I think we should run. But that in itself is an aspect to the game, right? It's a zoning deal, it's defense, it's pushing people away. And so that's the nice thing about Ragnaros is while he seems incredibly powerful and epic, there are trade-offs there. When he goes into that molten core state, you can decide to disengage with him. Now he has an incredibly long range as well, though. So even while you're disengaging, he can be raining down meteors on you and whatnot. But those are the trade-offs we have to take. We want to make that hero as epic and just seem like supremely powerful as possible, but then we hit on what are the trade-offs to make it balanced.
Cool. Well, thanks very much for talking with me, and stay tuned at PCGamer.com for more from BlizzCon.